Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating dynamic that affects, well, absolutely every single one of us at some point. We're looking at the hidden psychological barriers keeping us stuck. We so often think the obstacles standing in our way are entirely external, right? We blame a lack of resources, terrible market timing, or we assume the economy just isn't right. But what if the biggest roadblock is actually internal? What if the barrier is literally just our own hesitation? We're going to explore the deeply human psychology behind the courage to ask and uncover exactly why overcoming the fear of rejection is the ultimate key to unlocking opportunities you didn't even realize were sitting right there in front of you.
Section 1. Why you stay stuck. The internal roadblock.
It's incredibly common to look at the gap between where we currently are and where we desperately want to be and just feel this profound sense of paralysis. We look at that vast distance and instantly start rationalizing why we haven't crossed it yet. So I want you to genuinely ask yourself this right now. What is really keeping you stuck? Just think about it for a second. When you look at that dream job you've been eyeing, or that major potential client, or maybe a high-level mentor you want to connect with, what's the story you're telling yourself about why you aren't moving forward? Most of us immediately default to a perceived deficit. We tell ourselves we aren't ready, we need another certification, or we don't have the right qualifications yet. But the psychological insights we're looking at today, they point to a completely different culprit.
Okay, let's dive into this because this is a real game changer. One of the biggest reasons people stay stuck isn't a lack of talent, it's actually a lack of asking. We spend years refining our skills, getting more education, obsessively trying to perfect our craft, fully convinced that a lack of raw talent is the core issue here. But in reality, there are incredibly brilliant, talented people everywhere who remain entirely invisible, simply because they never make the request. Seriously, imagine a highly skilled designer spending 6 months agonizing over tweaking a portfolio, while a moderately skilled designer just emails the creative director directly and boom, lands the gig. The talent was absolutely there, but the ask was missing.
And that brings us to a devastatingly common habit, self-rejection. This is when we make decisions based on fear rather than facts, by assuming the answer will be no before even making a request. Think about how completely absurd this is when we actually break it down. We're literally rejecting ourselves before anyone else even gets the chance to. We're doing the gatekeeper's job for them. By never asking, we look at an opportunity and say, oh, they probably wouldn't want me for that. And just like that, we choose fear over facts, ensuring a 100% failure rate without ever putting our actual ideas or our actual worth to the test.
Section 2. Fear versus reality. The unreliable narrator.
If self-rejection is the habit, well, fear is the engine driving it. But fear is an incredibly unreliable narrator. Fear invents stories about rejection, but fear has no idea how the other person will respond. It's so true. Most opportunities in life are guarded by gatekeepers. And here's the secret about them. Those gatekeepers are usually just ordinary people going about their day. They absolutely have the power to open doors for you, but only if you ask them to. Fear, though, fear sits on your shoulder and writes this entire fictional script just to protect your ego from a potential sting. It tells you they're going to laugh you out of the room, or they'll be incredibly angry you even bothered them. But fear doesn't know them. Fear cannot predict the future.
So, the absolutely crucial point is this. The one and only way to bridge the gap between those terrifying fictional stories in your head and actual reality is to just make the ask. Discover what's possible. Whether that's pitching a radical new project at work, asking for a substantial promotion, or maybe reaching out to a high-level investor for your startup. You have to force the universe to give you a real answer, rather than settling for the phantom no your fear just conjured out of thin air.
Section 3. 3 rules for asking. Overcome self-rejection.
Now that we know exactly what's holding us back, how do we fix it? Well, what's really interesting about this is how we can shift from merely understanding the problem to building a highly actionable toolkit. We are going to completely rewire our default behavior through 3 core strategies: stopping the internal negotiation, replacing our assumptions with concrete action, and totally changing the metric by which we measure our success. Let's break these down, because they are absolute game changers.
The first rule is to stop negotiating against yourself. People constantly undervalue themselves before anyone else even pushes back. Just think about a freelancer setting a rate, or someone negotiating a starting salary. They discount their number in their own head before speaking a single word. Stop letting fear determine their price. Request what you honestly believe your value is. You might be shocked to discover you've been leaving money and massive opportunities on the table just because you assumed they would say no. And the second rule? Replace assumptions with action. Stop deciding that a client, a mentor, or a potential business partner is simply too busy or too important to talk to you. The truth is, many doors in this world stay closed for one simple reason. Absolutely no one ever knocks on them.
And this brilliantly illustrates the third and honestly most transformative rule. Instead of judging yourself by how many yeses you get, I want you to start judging yourself by how many courageous asks you make. Imagine setting a goal to make 100 meaningful requests. This entirely changes the game. You're no longer dreading a no. In fact, you expect them. You're just trying to get through your 100 asks. You turn vulnerability from a terrifying emotional event into a high-volume, highly strategic numbers game.
Let's actually look at the math of success here. Say you make those 100 meaningful requests and you face a brutal 80% rejection rate. 80 people look you in the eye and say absolutely not. That sounds terrible, right? But listen to this. That means 20 requests succeed. You've just manufactured 20 opportunities that never would have existed otherwise. If you hadn't asked, you would have zero, nothing. Those 20 successful asks are going to compound over time into a completely different career trajectory, a highly influential network, and a remarkably different life. The 80 rejections cost you nothing but a bruised ego, but the 20 yeses, they change absolutely everything.
Section 4. Make the ask today. Let reality decide. It is time to take this framework and apply it immediately to your own life. Here is the bottom line to really cement in your mind. Fear will always predict rejection. Always. That's its only job, to keep you safe and small. But fear cannot predict reality. Every single important, life-altering opportunity begins with a micro moment of courage, a conversation that most people never have the guts to start. So here are your rapid-fire instructions moving forward. Treat this like a playbook. Number 1, stop answering for other people. Let them say no for themselves. Number 2, ask clearly. Don't beat around the bush or apologize for taking up space. Number 3, make it incredibly easy for them to say yes by being prepared and concise. And number 4, accept that some people will say no. Let reality, not fear, decide the outcome.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative question. Who will you ask today? Identify just one conversation, just one single request you've been avoiding because you already assumed the answer. Take out your phone, open your email, and make the ask today. Force the universe to give you a real answer, because at the end of the day, you simply do not know what's true until you ask. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Now go out there and knock on some closed doors.